Hello, and welcome back once again to the Chris Ott channel. This is part 8 in the series on cause. We're back in the Circle Center where we began a couple months ago, and I'm happy about that. Now, before we start getting back into it, I wanted to share a quote that I heard on YouTube the other day, and I felt it captured in a kind of Zen way what I was trying to convey about all we have is our experience, our world is our experience. When we talk about trying to find an explanation for the creation of our world, we really mean fundamentally the creation of this experiential world, this world that we actually experience. The notion of a second, unseen, inconceivable world called an external world, which has been in philosophy for a long time, and we're going to talk more about that. It is supposed to be the cause or the explanation. However, not only can it not explain our experience, because no one has ever been able to propose how it could, it actually adds to the sum of things we have to explain, because we began with our world of experience to explain or find a cause for, and with this theory of an external world, we wind up with two worlds to have to explain. Our world of our experience, that's this all around us every day, and then this problematic theoretical other one. And even in principle, we could never find any cause or explanation for this theoretical world. It's only a theory. It's only an idea. It never can be anything other than that. We could never observe any cause of it, because it itself is, in principle, unobservable. It's external of our experience. It's outside of the scope and realm of our thoughts and our sensations and our sense perception. So how could you say anything about it? You see? But Jonathan Antoine is a tenor who's a rising star. He's 24 years old. He's brilliant, and some say he's the new Pavarotti. And he was interviewed just in the last couple weeks online, and he said this, and I was so impressed. He said, "All we can do is experience things, and then we're gone." That's sort of what I've been trying to convey. And he could say it in 10 words what I fail sometimes to say in hundreds and hundreds of words. Let me say it again. All we can do is experience things, and then we're gone. Jonathan Antoine. Okay? Now, the next thing he says is, so we should gather as beautiful experiences as we possibly can. And he's alluding to music. And so it's very lovely. I'll give a link to that interview below this video. But now let me get into the material for today. We're going to continue where we left off in part 7b. We're now in part 8. Okay, now I have some notes. Now, I've named some reasons why the external world concept was created in the first place, and why it has lasted so long, for basically the entire history of philosophy, 2,600 years of trying to understand our world. There's always been this idea of this other world that we don't see, that's responsible for the one we do, which is today referred to as the external world. And by external, as I keep repeating, They mean outside of the scope of your experience. So it's external of your experience. Now, there are also some underlying cognitive errors that prevent us from moving beyond this idea of an external world as cause. Okay? There are problems in our thinking that kind of keep us in a loop. We keep making the same sort of fallacy in thinking that is causing us to think of this external world, which is actually like, it's like cognitive dissonance. It's like, so. Now, this is kind of hard to follow, but I brought some props to try to make it clearer. One of the problems in our thinking, which leads us to this external world idea, okay, is a way of thinking about where our experience is, okay, where our consciousness is, if you want. Where is our conscious perceiving going on? Okay? Now we normally say it's going on in our mind. And in the modern world, we say it's going on in our brain. Okay? But I want to go over why there's a fallacy in thinking in this. Okay? There's an unexamined assumption in it. It's presuming that perception or experiencing is, in some sense, like a thing that you would experience. Okay, it's like it's a thing, because things are in things. Okay, and things belong to the realm of experience. Okay, so let me go over this now. Here's a glass. Now this glass is within the scope of our experience. Okay. It's in our experience. All right? And we can put things in this glass. Like this water just went into this glass. And now both the water and the glass are within our experience. They're within the scope of our experience. And now I'm going to put this sugar in that water. And we'll stir it up. Okay. Well, it's a little odd that we think that our experience goes into something in our body this way, because perception is fundamentally an action. It's not an object. It comes from the word to perceive, which means to gather. It is an event or an action. It's something that is performed, that occurs, that takes place. So, imagining the action as being like a brick, that is very primitive, right? Now, the fact is, let's take this as a head, and in this head there's a brain, okay? This head, all right, that is supposed to contain, well, let's skip that for a moment. This head is clearly in experience, the brain is in the head, and the head is in the realm of our experience, in the scope of our experience. My experience contains this head as part of its content. The notion that the opposite is also true, that my experience is in the head, doesn't make any sense. The head is in the experience. The experience isn't in the head. We have to explain how this head got into our experience. This idea that there's experience inside the head, that's just a fallacy of projecting the effect, something in the effect that we're trying to explain into our theoretical cause, the property of being in things. Okay? Now, what we're trying to explain, remember, is our experience, our experiential world, this world of experience, this appearance that we all share. That's what we want to explain. Now, to make things clear, because we're looking for the cause of that experience, we're going to call what is causing that experience the cause. Okay, that's common sense. And we're going to call our experience that we're trying to explain the effect. All right? Now, the notion of something being in something else is a quality that is derived from our experience. It's derived from the effect we're trying to explain. As I just demonstrated, I put some sugar into this water, and I put this water in this glass, and I put this glass on this table, and we are taking that kind of feature, and we are which is in the effect we're trying to explain, and we're projecting it into our imagined cause, that it's also like in things. Okay? Okay, this is occurring. Okay, so this glass is something that is occurring in our experience. The mistake we make is to project this notion of inness onto whatever it is that's causing our experience. It is not obvious that the act of perceiving is located somewhere. Remember, see, that's why Kant is important, but we won't get back into that too quickly. How can our experience be in something physical? Okay. After all, physical things are in our experience. Conscious perception is not that kind of material thing like the sugar I put in this glass. Materiality is something we find within the scope of our experience. I'm repeating myself now. And we project this characteristic of materiality onto the theoretical cause. And this is what has confused us. It's one of the things. This error of taking something that's in the effect that you're trying to explain and projecting it into your cause is called the historical fallacy. You're kind of like doing like this. And I have written about it so many times and in so many places that I don't know what to say. People have a hard time with it. But that is part of what's going on. Now, two, there's another thing that's responsible for this external world being so persistent in our thinking. And that is a very ancient notion, which I talked about in every single series of my talks early on, is that in the ancient world, when people looked for a cause, they theorized or invented or just pointed to some object as the cause. Either a hypothetical object that you can't perceive, gave it a name, or literally they found some rocks and they said, this is the cause. Okay. Now, there's a problem with this, is that this ancient notion of positing a thing can't actually account for anything that we perceive. So, I'll give you an example. Here's a brick. There's a thing. Now, that's not even a thing that we can't see. It's not even a magical thing. It's a solid material thing. Okay? Now, in what possible way could that create something, create our experience? How could it create anything? Okay? Let alone create our experience. First of all, it's in our experience. So, but secondly, it's inert. It's just a dumb, inert object. It's like Moses' staff is normally staffs are dumb, inert objects, but it can do, split the Red Sea. That's how he split the Red Sea. And God's no better, because what's missing in all these is there's no mechanism for how it does it. How does this brick do what you want to say that it does? There's no real explanation. It's just a nominal cause. It's the brick. The brick did it. So this notion of a thing being the cause is a dead end. What actually causes change or causes things that were not present to be present are processes. Okay? Processes. How did the continents of the earth get in the shape that they are in, spread all across the oceans? By a process called plate tectonics that was really understood only in the 1970s, where you have magma pushing up from inside the earth, which is hot, and it comes to the top, and then the continental plates push apart, and on the other side of the earth you have subduction, where one plate goes under the other plate. And this is allowing this movement of continental plates, and the continents are attached to the continental plates. So it's not that the continents are moving, it's that those plates are moving, and they're being moved by magma, which is pushing up to the surface because heat rises, and it's molten inside the earth, but as it rises to the top, it becomes solid, so it adds to the landmass, et cetera, et cetera. That adds to the mass of the continental sheet on one side of the earth. So that's a process. I just explained how continents took the shape that they did without positing a thing. See, a thing doesn't really explain anything. That's an ancient old habit. It's like talisman. It'll keep you from getting pregnant. It's not really going to keep you from getting pregnant. They don't understand the process of pregnancy. Okay, so they put on the guy gives his girlfriend a talisman. That's really did used to happen in the Middle Ages. Okay, so we're not going to posit a thing at all in our theory to explain experience. A theory like plate tectonics can't explain our experience because this is a whole other kind of problem. See, when I talk about the magma coming up out of the earth and then pushing to the top and then pushing the continental plates apart, and then you have subduction on the other side, all of those things are within the scope of experience. They are part of the world of experience. They're in our experience. You can go, and go under the ocean, and you'll actually, be able to detect these seismic events always occurring. These tectonics, they are in our experience. So you have a process that we can experience, causing a change in the things that we experience. But we have a much harder problem We need an explanation for experience, for the world of experience. Okay? And so that can't be something in experience. All right? I hope that's clear. That we are not going to be able to look for a process that we can observe to explain our experience, because the problem keeps repeating itself because it's in our experience. So to give an example, if I had some kind of a chemical here, and there's the belief that in current science and philosophy, it is assumed, well, it's known that there are chemical processes occurring in our brain, okay? And there's electrical activity occurring in our brain. And if you flash a light on somebody's eyes, something's gonna light up in this brain. And chemicals are being carried around in the brain, and all this has to do with processes that occur during thinking, during pain, during sense perception, okay? So, but that these are the cause of our experience, it can't be. Because these are in the realm of our experience. It's like I could take the chemical and put it in this water and it'll fizz. And that's all very interesting, but everything in there is in the realm of my experience. I need an explanation of the realm of my experience. Okay. So, the way we're going to go about this is we are going to seek a process, but it is not going to be this process that we observe in the world of experience. Because remember, we're trying to explain our world of experience. So we have to have something that's not just another thing that we experience, because it only adds to the sum of things we're trying to explain. Okay? Now, if we accept what Jonathan Antoine said, poetically, as true, as fundamentally basic, all we can do is experience things and then we're gone, okay? The world is experience. And anything you can talk about is an experience. Whatever Jesus experienced before he took birth and after he returned to the Father was an experience, okay? There's no realm that becomes other. Okay, that's kind of a premise of this whole thing because there's no reason to think otherwise. Okay. And the attempts to assume otherwise have never led to any fruit of any kind. As a matter of fact, they lead to infinite dilemmas, like the mind-body problem, which you can look up if you want. So how are we going to go about this? We're going to do something entirely different than has been done before, except there are some precedents, and we're going to talk about that. First, we must fully admit that what we are dealing with is experience. Physical things are in the scope of our experience. We will for now reject the old idea that our experience is in the physical, okay? We are going to reverse the causation entirely, okay? Instead of thinking that the experience is happening in the physical is going to happen in the experience. Well, you'll see what I mean. Now, speaking of precedents from the past, as it's often said, there's nothing new under the sun, or there's some proverb that's supposed to be by Buddha that if it wasn't, if it was new, it wouldn't be from the Buddha or something like that. Like, truth has always been here, even if very few have seen it, and even if it has been disguised in poetic language or mystical language, which is always problematic to understand unless you just see it, okay? As Jesus said, for those who have ears to hear, I'll say this, and then I'll say something nobody in the room knows what he means. I'm going to refer to an idea in Hinduism Now, in the past, I have kind of ridiculed the idea of Maya in Hinduism because it is sort of an unexplained idea. So from a rigorous philosophical point of view, it's a little bit useless. Maya literally comes from a root in Sanskrit that means magic or magician. So it's sort of like the magic that makes us perceive the world and think it's real, but it's not, okay? That's not the kind of philosophy we're looking for. That's more like a doctrine of religion, and specifically Vedanta. But there is something in Hinduism that is the example given by the proponent of a form of Hinduism called Advaita Vedanta, Adi Shankara. And it is to give an example of Maya in action. He said, it is like a person walking on a path at twilight and he mistakes a stick for a snake. Okay? He sees something as something else. Seeing as. Now, this has never been truly elaborated in the East. At least in the past. Maybe we'll get into where there are some contemporary elaborations by Meher Baba. But generally, Hinduism is left kind of like Western religion. It still sort of relies on kind of magical thinking. But I don't think this is magical thinking, because I could take that idea of seeing something as something else, and even a reason for seeing it as that, and that could that single principle can explain the entire universe if extended through a long period of evolution, okay, a process. Now, remember, we're talking about experience, so this process is not going to be a physical process like plate tectonics. It's a psychological process. It's basically Gestalt. Gestalt is the principle that created the universe. The propensity under the right circumstances to see one thing as something else, okay? Now, this is exactly what Kant proposed in the late 1700s. That's how he proposed that we see things spatially, how there is space. You are seeing things, Kant proposed, that are actually not spatial, but you are sort of like seeing through a lens, okay, that colors all that you see and it organizes it spatially. Okay? So all the data is there, all the information, but it's not in itself spatial. Now, this isn't really very hard to conceive, especially for the young who play computer games, because they all know that what's actually on that disk that's running on their console is just a series of numbers, ones and zeros. And that it is then through a set of certain algorithms, certain sets of numbers are assigned this color, and some are assigned that color, and some are assigned this sound, and some are assigned this sound. Now you have sound and color, and you're playing the game, and you're running through the woods. But all it is numbers and sounds. So now the computer is helping you because it has an algorithm that is presenting these numbers in that form. But this, I believe, is actually how the world is created. Now, it's created through a set of lenses that arise in sequence one after the other, and I'll explain why they arise later. For now, you just have to see that they arise and the results. First of all, we're using the metaphor of lenses. Here I just have glass lenses, but they represent the idea that it's like an algorithm. If I look through this, I'm going to see things in a different way. Now, I asked a Kant scholar if Kant's idea could be, was essentially explainable like in terms of a lens. And he said, absolutely, absolutely what Kant meant. Okay, so we're within the range we want to be in. Okay, now, normally, and Kant believed, he assumed, they're sort of like you, okay? And you are looking through a lens with time, and you're looking through a lens with space. The problem with this, and then it's creating a world on space and time. The problem is, where did you come from? You're in space and time, okay? So there's a problem in Kant. This could have been your mind in Kant or whatever you want, but that doesn't really work because you're not really explaining what's in your experience, which includes yourself, by the way. All right. Instead, we're going to start without any self, and we're going to start without anything to look at through these lenses. Okay? There's not going to be an external world over here, and there's not going to be a self over here looking through these lenses. Okay? The order of the lenses is going to produce the self and the world. They're going to be the effect. You see, how do you know you have a self? Well, you look in the mirror. You think about it. You see your thoughts. You hear your thoughts thinking. I mean, you have a name. You contemplate it. You see your body. You feel pains. I mean, there's so many reasons. But you find yourself in the world of experience. Heidegger said that. It's not original. Okay? You find yourself in this world of experience. Okay? Whether there is one before there is this experience, who knows? Okay, we'll get to all that. So now the way I want to show you this is I'm going to use a kind of a funny metaphor here. But I think it's helpful. Imagine that all around here and everywhere, that way, everywhere that way, that way, that way, that way, that way, is perception. Now, even though that doesn't make any sense, and I said, perception's not a thing that's located somewhere. For now, just so you can grasp this idea, because you have to be able to picture something, and these are just metaphors, but this will help you to understand the idea. So just go with it for a moment. So it's not that it's located in something, it's that it's everywhere, perception, okay? Now, let's say this is a time lens, and it's the first lens. It has to be the first lens because nothing can happen after it until there's time, or there is no such thing as after or before. So, time, okay? That's the first lens. Now, although there's nothing to see, now, who's seeing through this lens? Nobody. Remember, perception's everywhere, but this is our organized perception spatially, okay? Now, what does it perceive spatially? There isn't anything to perceive spatially, but if anything ever comes along to perceive, if it just so happens that there could be anything to perceive, it will be perceived. Did I say spatially? I meant temporally. Things drawn out in time. I hope I made that clear. This is the time lens. I hope I didn't say space lens. It's the time lens. The next lens is space lens. Okay? Now, anything that is seen temporally and spatially. Okay? Once you have space and time, you have all kinds of distinctions. Even your number is possible, and geometry is possible, okay? Because geometry is portions of space and divisions of space, okay? Now, the next thing is laws of nature. Did you know that all laws of nature are ratios of time and space? That's true. There's a law of nature. Let's say it's gravity. Gravity is a law, is a set of ratios between time and space, nothing else. All motion is a ratio of time and space. If you're driving down the highway 60 miles an hour, it's 60 miles is a range of space in an hour, which is a range of time. And that describes your motion. Now, although there's nothing perceived that gravity could pull upon, this law of gravity, which is based on these two dimensions, okay, it will govern it. Anything that comes will be governed by this law. You go, well, why would this law evolve? What would be the reason? I'll get to that later. There is a reason, okay? There is something that's pushing this along and pulling it along and making it happen in this order. And it couldn't be any other order. Then you have another law, okay? And then, as you finally get the whole world constructed numerically in terms of laws. And anybody who's studied video games, as I was just talking, can see that that's possible. As a matter of fact, in order to make a game like Skyrim, they actually have a law package. It's a package of algorithms that are laws, that are ratios of time and space. Now, once you have an entire world that's mathematical, you just need an algorithm to apply certain numbers to certain colors, okay, and certain numbers to certain sounds, and so forth. And then you get an entirely colored world. Now, as a world is evolving over here and appearing, over here is a sense of yourself, a body. But this initially might be an insect, or you see, but gradually it evolves, and these evolve, okay? And the world is evolving, and you who are in the world evolve too. These are an effect, okay? We don't take anything from the world of selves and objects and apply it to the cause. That was the historical fallacy. That's what created the invisible, hidden, external world that never worked, okay? We're seeing this and the world, they're the effect. We don't conceive of our cause like the effect. It is this, me and my world, that I'm trying to explain, okay? They're not the explanation. They're the thing we're trying to explain. This, which is a series of psychological ways of seeing or ways of perceiving, they're adverbial. They are producing the self and the thing seen. There's no external world before this begins. There's no external world. There's only the here, the world of the here and now. The present experiential world is what appears. And our body and with all our thoughts, okay? They appear. Okay. That in a nutshell is my idea. Next week when I come here and do another talk, I'm going to get into why this is important, okay? Why it can't be accepted right now, why it will continue to be ignored for the foreseeable future, certainly my lifetime, but why it inevitably has to replace the old paradigm. And I want to go over, and I have before, the implications of it, because they're extreme. They're not academic. They affect your people's daily lives. Okay? Well, thank you for watching. We will see you next time. Hopefully next week. And have a great week. Bye.